What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to the DFS NBA Breakdown. My name is Narang. I'm from DFS.com, and I will be breaking down this four-game main slate for Thursday, December 12th. Hope y'all having a great day so far. Appreciate you tuning in to watch this video. Hope you guys are ready for a fun day of gambling. We got basketball, football, hockey on tap. I love these days, Thursdays, Mondays, Sundays. Some of my favorite days. So, let's dive into this. But before we do that, just a few things. If y'all want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at reallyaddy. It's a great way to keep up to date with what I'm thinking, what I'm talking about. In addition to that, if you want to be entered into winning a free season pass of your choice, all you got to do is leave a like, leave a comment on this video, and make sure you're subscribed. We'll pick a winner every week. We picked our winner for last week's giveaway on yesterday's Thursday Night Football Showdown video, which is very relevant for today. So if you haven't already checked that out, please go do check that out. I think Christian and I kind of gave away, a ton of information for that Showdown slate, exactly how we're going to be approaching it, for the slate tonight. So go ahead and check that out and, leave a like, leave a comment, make sure you're subscribed, and we'll pick a winner on next week's Showdown video. That should cover it. I'm going to be breaking down the slate for DraftKings, FanDuel, and going over some of my favorite PrizePicks props. I'll talk a little bit more about PrizePicks as we get into that. Let's jump right into it. So 4-game slate. The last slate I had was a 4-game slate as well. So we broke it down game by game. Y'all seem to like that. So let's do the same thing again for this one. Still a lot of injury news we're waiting on for each of these games, but one piece of news that we do have on this Boston side is that Marcus Smart will be missing this game. I believe this is his second or third game. This is his third game I think he'll be missing. And that's going to make a guy like Brad Wanamaker at 3.1K one of the more obvious values on the slate. As of right now, this slate is kind of looking a little bit devoid of value. So I think Brad Wanamaker here at 3.1K might end up actually being pretty popular. He played 22 and 24 minutes in the last two games without Marcus Smart. First game didn't do too much. Second game crushed value, going 8x for 24 fantasy points. I think if he's going to get anywhere from 22 to 24 minutes again on a slate that's not too full of value as of now, it could definitely end up that way, but I think you're just going to sort of have to plug him in because of what he does for the rest of your lineup. We saw a guy like Kemba Walker do really well last game without Marcus Smart as well. Thought I was going to sneeze there. But 7.7K, I think that's still a fair price to play. This game does have one of the lowest over-unders on the slate, which is full of games with low over-unders. Actually, it is the lowest. We know how good this Philly defense is. I believe they're the fourth best defense in the league. We know how slow both these teams would want to play ideally. So I think it's probably optimal to kind of check your exposure to this game in general. I think if you go, I guess we're still waiting on this injury news, but Al Horford is questionable for this game. Maybe it'll be out by the time this video goes live, but if it isn't, I think there is some value available if you were to miss. Obviously, we see a guy like, we don't know. Sometimes when Al Horford misses, they do some different things. Sometimes they'll start a guy like Matisse Thybulle, who's been playing really well and would fit well in this matchup for them. So I could see him starting him because, he can guard multiple positions, a guy like Gordon Hayward, even Kemba Walker, even Jason Tatum. So I think it makes sense to start him. But if they start a guy like Mike Scott as well, those guys would all be in play as pretty solid values on this slate. It would also give a bump to all the other big three of Philly, including Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is probably my favorite of all these, probably my favorite play in this game overall and point per dollar wise. Well, Wanamaker might be point per dollar wise, but probably my favorite play in this game. We know Boston struggles with rebounding. They struggle with points in the paint. And that's sort of what Joel Embiid, that's his bread and butter. So if he's matched up versus Enes Kanter for 15 minutes this game, those are sort of free 15 minutes. He's not going to really be challenged defensively. But speaking of that, I think Daniel Theis actually at 4K, he is their best big man defender with Robert Williams out. Probably just point blank, but with Robert Williams out, it really secures his minutes. I thought he was a viable play yesterday versus a team like Indiana. That plays big with Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis. And they're going to need his defense out there. And despite getting in foul trouble, he still played 27 minutes, which is, on the upper end of what he usually plays. So I think this is a game where you just can't match up Enes Kanter on Joel Embiid. So we could see a little bit more Daniel Theis out there, and I think he makes for a pretty fine value play. They'll probably go pretty under-owned as well, just in general. I also like Joel Embiid's prop on PrizePicks at 46.5. I think that's pretty fair. I think I'd have it projected around 50 fantasy points, so you're sort of getting a 3.5 fantasy point boost on this, which I think makes a lot of sense. If you guys don't know PrizePicks, we're partnered with them. All you got to do is sign up, use promo code LOCKS, and you'll get a free 25% match up to free 25% match and a free 2-pick flex, up to $25 or to win $25. But yeah, I really enjoy this. I play on it myself. I think props are real beatable, and I think PrizePicks has fairly solid props. I don't think they're unbeatable. I don't think they've got these points at a point to where it's just like figured out. I think it's still definitely beatable. But yeah, so just deposit over there. That 25% bonus, by the way, is no drip. It's pretty cool. You just get it straight cash in your account. You just got to roll it over once, which is one of the better DFS promos out there. So with that being said, let's move on to the San Antonio-Cleveland game. This is where I project some solid value to be coming from. These mid-range San Antonio guys for me are really popping. I think they're all underpriced. 7.3 for DeMar DeRozan, 7K for LaMarcus Aldridge, and even this price on DeJounte Murray, 5.6. May seem a bit high, but if he's off his minutes limit, which looks like he is, 32 minutes, and we got a quote from Pop saying that he's probably off his minutes limit, he's well over a fantasy point per minute guy. So at 5.6K, he makes a lot of sense. And I would also say that the PrizePicks props on all three of these guys seems a bit low. 37 for LaMarcus Aldridge is probably all right, but 28 for DeJounte Murray, 37.5 for DeRozan. I think I'm really interested in both of those overs personally. This is a good matchup. We know how bad Cleveland struggles defensively. They have, well, first off, they're allowing they're allowing the most points in the paint in the league, which is big for a guy like LaMarcus Aldridge, but it's also pretty big for a guy like DeJounte Murray, who gets all his buckets in the paint. Fairly big for a guy like DeMar DeRozan, too, who doesn't shoot threes. He usually gets his buckets in mid-range or in the paint, so it's a good little stat for them. They're obviously one of the worst teams defensive rating-wise. They give up a healthy amount of second-chance points. I believe they got, the third worst defensive rating, and the Spurs are, seventh worst. So this could be a game that sees a few points. You could run it back. If you do want to run it back with someone, it's tough to pick any of these Spurs. Kevin Love is still really cheap at 6.2K. We saw Kevin Porter Jr. have a huge game versus Houston. He's a talented rookie. I don't know how he fell to 30th in the draft, but he's a talented rookie. I think he could definitely ride this little momentum into some added playing time, and that would certainly make him in play at 3.6K, especially if we don't get any more value on this slate. But yeah, so with that being said, let's move on to this Detroit-Dallas game. Nothing really standing out too much for me in this Detroit-Dallas game. Obviously, we got Luka Doncic, who's in play every single slate, this one included. His price might be a bit restrictive, especially with the lack of value on the slate. Obviously, you can still get him in, but I think you might have to cut some corners on some mid-range guys that I like. And so this may be a slate, if we don't get more value, where I'll be going with the mid-range guys as opposed to Luka and a punt that's pretty thin. Maybe just, a DeRozan, something like DeRozan, Jokic versus Doncic, and some 3-6 Matisse Thybulle type punt. I don't know. I think I might lean the mid-range side of that. We got a decent over/under in this game, 219. Dallas is projected for the second highest team total. But I think if I want some Dallas exposure, I might just go to Kristaps here at 6.4K. They're going to need his size in this matchup versus Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. Neither of those guys are really competent defenders, especially defending a guy like Porzingis, who can stretch the floor so well. Anytime he's matched up on Drummond, that is not Drummond's skill set. So I think that'll severely favor Porzingis. And I think he gets a boost to his rebounding floor as well, just because he's going to be needed so much in this matchup. I think Dorian Finney-Smith, if he sees the ceiling of his minutes at 4K, which we've seen his minutes ceiling be like 35, 37, I think he makes for a decent value play. But again, that's still pretty thin. I would hope that more value comes out, upon this video going up or before lock. On the Detroit side of things, man, just not that interested in much. Blake Griffin, he's fairly cheap. Aren't you jumping question about the prop? Oh, I guess he's questionable for this game. I didn't see this one before I recorded the video. So if he misses, then Blake Griffin becomes a much better play. Christian Wood becomes almost a lock. And Markieff Morris becomes a really, really strong play as well. What just happened? I think I just like slid on the keypad and got rid of this. Okay. So yeah, all three of those Detroit guys would become better plays. Even a guy like Derrick Rose would see increased usage with Andre jumping out. So keep an eye on that news. I wasn't aware of that prior to recording this, so that'll be big news for this game specifically. And then the last game, Portland at Denver. This is actually a game that I kind of like for fantasy purposes. I guess we'll start with the injury news. Paul Millsap is questionable for this game. If he were to miss, Jeremy Grant has pretty much been his direct backup all season. So he would see the biggest beneficiary of Paul Millsap missing time. But, the Nuggets definitely don't hesitate to go to guys like Mike Malone has been quoted saying, Jeremy Grant, Torrey Craig are their guys for defense. But if they want offense, they go to guys like Juancho Hernan-Gomez and Michael Porter Jr. I think both those guys would be a little bit sneaky as well. We saw a stretch of games where Juancho was getting minutes, 24, 20, 23. If Paul Millsap were to miss and he would go back into that range of minutes, he is a guy with some significant fantasy upside just because his ability to, get buckets. And then Michael Porter Jr., his minutes have sort of been consistent in the 8 to 10 minute range. If those bump up to around 20, he's also a guy who has some decent upside at 3.2K. And I guess Mason Plumlee, we don't see Denver run too many two-center lineups with Jokic and Plumlee. Typically, Plumlee's the direct backup for Jokic, but I'm sure he would see a slight boost in productivity and potentially minutes without Paul Millsap on the court. But we know Portland is 9th overall in pace, and Denver's 28th, so this is a pretty big pace-up spot for Denver. I like all these Denver players, man. Jamal Murray's questionable, but he posted on Instagram that he's going to play. So if he were to miss, Monte Morris would be an obvious value. Nikola Jokic would get a boost in ball handling and scoring, and then Will Barton would get a boost in ball handling and scoring as well. So everyone sort of gets a boost if Jamal Murray were to miss. I don't think he will. The price on him is okay. I prefer the price of Nikola Jokic at 9K here. It's just Portland, big man versus Portland has actually been a really good matchup. As you can see here, they allow the second most rebounds per game. In addition to that, they allow, they allow the second most rebounds per game. They allow a very high field goal percentage. They have one of the worst defensive ratings in the league. And they allow the most second chance points in the league, which is right sort of up Nikola Jokic's alley with those offensive rebound putbacks. So I think a guy like him is in play. And then on the Portland side, you got the Melo revenge game back in Denver. Obviously, that's not the reason you're playing him. I think the price on him is pretty fair at 5.8K. Just a guy that shoots a lot for that price, and he's got some rebounding upside as well. We've seen him reach, double-digit rebounds and reach that 40-point fantasy threshold, which is really what you're looking at 5.8K. So I think he makes a lot of sense, and I think this price on Damian Lillard is pretty exploitable as well. He's always had pretty good games versus Denver. I think this is a game that I like to hit the over. I think it could stay fairly competitive. Denver tends to play a little bit faster than their 28th overall pace at home, so that could benefit a guy like Damian. The price on CJ is fair, but I think I'd rather just try and pay up for Damian here. If not playing, or if pairing him with Melo or something like that. Hassan Whiteside might be a little bit expensive, 8.1K. Obviously, the dude's got massive fantasy upside, and he would be a pretty good contrarian pivot off of Nikola Jokic, but, he runs the foul trouble risk here, and it's just Nikola Jokic, despite his look, is one of the premier big men defenders in the league. He's got real quick hands. He's got quick feet. He can get in position. He's a savvy defender. It's a tough matchup for these big guys going into Denver, so I just definitely prefer Nikola Jokic for like 900 more here. But so I kind of dragged that video on 14 minutes. But with that all being said, I appreciate you guys watching. If you did, please do leave a like, leave a comment. Again, it really means a lot to us, boosts us in the algorithm, and enters you guys into winning a free season pass of your choice. Hope you guys go check out that Thursday Night Football video. Again, it's on the Locks DFS YouTube channel right now. Make sure to give that a like as well. Leave a comment over there. Appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you on Saturday for Addy's action. Peace.